I've got some helpful and safe books for people who are deconstructing. This is a tour of my library. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. First book, remember all the stuff that you thought about the Bible that you thought was true and you've just sort of been lied to your whole life. This book will help with that. It will give you an sort of baseline understanding of the academic consensus around the Bible, how it was created, all the ways that it was modified or changed to reflect the culture. It's this one right here. It's called History of the Bible by John Barton. He is a brilliant academic, and he is a unique academic in the sense that he can actually speak in ways that normal people can understand. History of the Bible, John Barton. All right, next, this is a book basically about deconstructing whether or not to be a Christian anymore. And it's written by my friend Brian McLaren. It's called Do I Stay a Christian? And man, it's fantastic because he's got like sort of three sections, which is yes, no, maybe, and it's really great. And it's super accessible writing. And of course, Brian is brilliant. If you want another book of his, there's this series, and this series of books changed my life. It's the last, this is the last of the series. It's called, it's the last in a trilogy of books that starts with A New Kind of Christian. This one's called The Last Word, and the word after that. It's fantastic. That one is about hell, but so good. Actually, another book about hell, this one right here, Love Wins. Love Wins by Rob Bell. Fantastic book about hell, and gives you a sense of like really what the Bible says and doesn't say, which is it doesn't say a whole lot. And the way that sort of after the Bible was finished being created, the whole idea of hell developed, and the way that sort of initial Christians didn't believe in eternal conscious punishment for a long time. Anyway, great book. Okay, so let's talk about religion in general. And like maybe you're in a place where you're not sure if religion is very useful or helpful to people at all because of how much it traumatizes people. This book right here, it's called The Awakened Brain, and it's by Lisa Miller. She is like a legit scholar who has worked with Yale and all these like fantastic institutions to do research on the sort of psychological effects of religion. Not specifically any religion, but religion in general. And she has just a fantastic sort of rehashing of all of what she has learned and all of that in a way that helps you understand like what is helpful about religion, and specifically if you're going to be a religious person, what do the contours of that religious belief need to be in order to actually be helpful for you in the long term. If you are right now trying to figure out like what to do with your life and how to like let go of the sort of obsessive, very unhealthy calling teaching about like you need to figure out what you need to do with your life, there's a really great book. It's by a guy named Parker Palmer. It's called To Know As We Are Known. I think it's one of the most helpful books to help you figure out what you want to do and be in the world. Okay, so there's another book about the Bible that I think is really great. It's right here. If you have to do a second book after the history of the Bible, I like this one. It's called How the Bible Actually Works by Pete Enns. Pete is on TikTok and is fantastic. You should also follow him on TikTok. All right, so I think one of the things that's really helpful is like mystical traditions and traditions that help you sort of think about practices. And this one right here, this book is amazing. It's called The Sabbath. It's by Abraham Joshua Heschel. It will help you understand how to take a break and how to give yourself space to think. Another fantastic book is called The Cloud of Unknowing. It's one of the most like important and significant Christian mystical books. And then another one that's like almost like a word that people use at this point by St. John of the Cross is called The Dark Night of the Soul. I think all of these books are fantastic for people to read. But Jeremy, you say, are there books that aren't necessarily Christian, but that really have helped you in general? And yeah, I'm so glad that you asked. If you want actually religious one that I think is fantastic and has really helped me in the practice of meditation is The Experience of Samadhi. That's a fantastic book. But there's also other books that are really helpful to me. I love poetry, and maybe my favorite poet, her name is Joy Harjo. She was the poet laureate of the United States for a while. This one, In Mad Love and War, it has the very last poem, and it's called Eagle Poem, and it talks about prayer in an interesting way. She's a Native American poet. She also has a fantastic book called She Had Some Horses, which is great. Another fantastic poet that really opens me up to the universe is Mary Oliver. I love this. Why I Wake Early is a really great one of hers. And then, of course, the amazing Maya. Ooh, wow. Well, that was interesting. Jesus and Mary fell on top of me, but the amazing Maya Angelou, this is a collected works of hers that I think is fantastic. But also, there's things that are more science and more helpful, I think, for me in that realm. This one is called The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. Oh my gosh, incredible book about sort of organic farming and all of that kind of stuff. If you want to go super sciencey, this one is really helpful. It's an easy read. It's called A Briefer History of Time by Stephen Hawking. It's a brilliant overview of his theories that don't, it doesn't take long to read, and it's very accessible. Yeah. And if you want to know what my nerdiest book, and actually sort of a series of books that I have, that no one should ever probably read because they would be boring to almost everybody but me, this is the Loeb Classical Library. This is Josephus, Jewish Antiquities, in his books 18 and 19. The reason this collection is important for me is because this is the sole place sort of outside of Christianity that you actually have a reference to Jesus, and but also the Loeb Classical Library, the Roman histories and the Jewish history, it's all fantastic, and if you're super nerdy, you should read them. Let's talk novels. I really like this one, Speaker for the Dead. It's part of the Ender's Game series. I like it because it's like deeply spiritual, but in this, I don't know, otherworldly way. It's a sci-fi book. It's fantastic. And of course, I don't have them down here, but Harry Potter. Harry Potter is everything. Harry Potter is life. Oh, I almost forgot 2 books that are really great. This one is called When the Church Bells Rang Racist. If you want to read this like incredibly deep account of racism in churches in Alabama during the Civil Rights period, that, oh my gosh, it's depressing, but it's really helpful. It's important to read. And then of course, this, Amy Jill Levine, she's amazing. Short Stories by Jesus. It's like an interesting sort of academic approach to reading the parables of Jesus. It's so good. Okay, obviously that's not all of my library, but I would love to hear the books that you are interested in. Put them in the comments, please.